Welcome back to the Launchkey Mini for Beginners series, where we're learning how to take full control of this controller. It's very powerful with Ableton Live Lite, so you can make some music. If you haven't already watched the previous installments of this series, I definitely recommend it because we're going to be building on the skills that we've learned in the previous chapters in today's lesson. I'll link to the playlist below. Shout out to my channel members who get early access to new episodes of this series. If you want to get early access to the next episode, which is up right now, become a channel member, hit the join button or the subscribe plus button down below. Planning and shooting and editing a series like this takes a lot of time and effort, so I want to thank DistroKid for supporting this episode. And today we're going to cover more advanced features of the step sequencer on the Launchkey Mini, as well as using the 2 chord modes on the Launchkey Mini. Let's jump right in. Don't be afraid to take some notes or pause the video when you need to practice. To get started, we are going to learn a couple more advanced features of the step sequencer in the Launchkey Mini. So in a new Ableton Live project, let's go to drums and let's find a really simple drum kit. I think everybody should have the 909 chord kit. Maybe I'll go with the flavor kit. Doesn't matter too much. Let's just not do anything too crazy. Just a really basic drum kit. With that loaded, we're going to go into the sequencer page. So we're going to hold shift and press the DAW pad again, just like we learned in the first episode. Now we're in sequencer mode. Make sure you're in the right octave range to select the kick drum. And let's just sequence a basic kick drum beat. Great, we've got a 1-bar pattern. We've already learned this, but I want to show you a couple more advanced features here in the sequencer. One being that we can hold down a step and we can edit certain things about it. The first encoder gives us control over the velocity of a step, so you can see that that's actually changing in the software. This is really useful for coming up with grooves so that everything's not this stagnant velocity. We can also hold down a step and change the length of a given step. Now this is going to lock to our grid here in Ableton Live, and it doesn't have that much of an effect on drums like this, but you can also do a finer length adjustment that doesn't snap to that grid. And you can also move certain hits slightly off the grid, slightly or not so slightly if you want. Just kind of nudge them. That's kind of funny. More human feel. Another cool advanced function here is that we can copy full steps. If we hold the function button, press the step we want to copy, you'll see notes copied, and then we can paste it onto a given step. Now, something to make a note of, if I select something like a hi-hat, for instance, and I put the hi-hat so that it shares a beat, shares a step with those kick drum hits. If I hold function and copy that step and paste it here, it's going to paste everything that's on that step. So you can hear we get a kick drum and a hi-hat on that step we just copied. So you're not copying just the drum that you're programming, you're copying everything that's on that given step. So now we've got hi-hats that line up on a specific step with the kick drum. If I do that same copying function by holding function, pressing the step to copy, and then pasting that step in here, you can see that it's pasted in both the kick and the hi-hat. We're not just copying and pasting the single drum that we're programming, we're copying everything that's on that step. So just keep that in mind if you want to use this function. Now, interestingly, we've only been programming 1-bar drum loops, which can get boring pretty fast. But what if we want to program a longer drum loop? Let's use the arrows here and press it down. You can see that now we have selected bar 2, and there's nothing illuminated here on our keys, no matter which drum I select. Nothing's happened to our loop yet, but as soon as I start entering notes on the grid here, a new bar will be created. Bar 2 is created, so you can see my loop is much longer now. Let's add some more steps in here. And let's add some hi-hats in there too. Now, if we continue to press the down arrow, you can see it says bar 3 now. It hasn't created bar 3 yet, but as soon as we enter in some notes, we get bar 3. Press down one more time so we have a nice even 4 bars. And I'm just using the same hi-hat again so we get a nice cohesive pattern. But you can see right from the step sequencer, we're able to create a 4-bar pattern. No more being locked into a single bar loop. Now we can use these arrows to navigate around between the bars in our loop because we might want to make changes later. So that's what the arrows will be used for if you go back and forth. Anytime you reach a point where, bar 5, we don't have a bar 5 yet, it won't create that bar until you put notes in it. So don't worry if you scroll too far by accident. And there's actually one more advanced function of the step sequencer that I want to talk about. If we press this arrow button here above the function button, we get to a clip selection page. And right now we're seeing red pads with one blue pad. The one blue pad represents the clip in Ableton Live that we've already created. These other red LEDs represent empty clip slots. So we've got an empty MIDI track right here with an empty clip slot, and we've got an empty clip slot right below our pre-existing drum loop. So I can select one of these clips and it will create a new clip here. So now I've got a clip that contrasts our original clip. I can switch the pad mode back to clip mode, and we've got 2 clips to launch. Now, let's say this clip is playing. Let's go back to step sequencer mode. I've got the first clip selected. Let's go ahead and select the second clip. Now it didn't trigger it, it's not playing yet. So what I want to do is actually add some kicks to this second clip while it's not even playing. Back to clip launch mode here, we'll hear those changes reflected in that clip. So just remember, while you're in the sequencer mode, this right arrow right here allows you to select certain clips. If the project isn't currently playing, it's going to start playing when you select a clip. If the project is currently playing and there's another clip playing, it's not going to launch that clip, but you can edit the clip before you launch it, which could be a pretty useful performance technique. So take a little time and make 2 drum loops, extend them beyond the single bar loop, keep it to 2 or 4 bars for now, make some adjustments to the steps, whether that be velocity or a slight nudge on the grid. And once you've done that, come back, we're gonna lay some chords on top of these drums. But before we get too deep into that, let me tell you, if you're gonna start making music like this on the Launchkey Mini, you might wanna release that music to the world. And DistroKid has been my distributor, the way I release my music to the world, since well before they ever sponsored the channel. They're sponsoring today's episode. DistroKid makes it super easy. You just pay 1 annual fee and you upload as much music as you want, and that music goes to all the places you might want it to be, like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, Instagram for Instagram Reels, all the places. But there are some bonus features beyond just distribution that DistroKid members get, like a simplified hyperfollow page so that when you finally do release music, you can create a single page with all the links you want people to see, even extra merch links or a Bandcamp link. DistroKid gives you a really easy way to build that page. And promo cards. If your release just dropped and you want to promote it in some way, but you're not a graphic designer, you're not a visual artist, you've got a bunch of selections for promo cards right on DistroKid. And similarly, you can make your own Spotify canvas right from DistroKid, which is essentially just this little short video that loops and plays when you listen to a song on Spotify. It's really cool. Just part of the bonus features of DistroKid is you can make your own Spotify canvas and generate your own promo materials. They even sent me a promo card for the anniversary of my ambient album release. Anyway, if you don't have a distributor yet, I definitely recommend DistroKid. And today you can sign up for a 7% discount using my link in the description. These series and tutorials take a lot of effort to plan, write, record, and edit, so I really want to thank DistroKid for supporting today's episode. Link in the description, 7% off. Let's get back to the Launchkey Mini. Alright, so I am back in clip launch mode. I've got 2 drum grooves here. They're nothing to write home about, but they're good enough for us to write on top of. Stop playing that for now. So now we're going to add a new instrument to our project. So I'm going to go to the instruments section of the library, exit out of any search that I've got there. Under the drift synth, I'm going to find a fairly simple sound. The analog piano is fine. I think I'm going to go with the arcade split. That's simple enough. So now we've added that instrument to our project. I can play it on the keys, but I want to take advantage of the chord map mode. So I'm going to press Shift and press the pad right above the words chord map. And we get a new display of LED pads here. We've got blue on the right, and when we tap them, we get this full chord sound. And these orange pads on the right, which don't do anything just yet. Hold that thought. So these blue pads, as you can hear, each hold a different chord, and the screen is showing us what chord they're playing and what notes are in those chords. If you know a bit about music theory and you understand scales and keys, pressing the scale button here and using the first encoder will allow you to change the key of these pads. If you don't understand scales and keys, you're not too savvy with music theory, just hold that thought for now and let's leave this on C major. We won't make any changes just yet. And then I'm going to press scale mode to get out of scale mode again. One more thing to double check. If for some reason, when you're using the chord map mode, if your encoders are not quite matching up with what I'm showing you right now, they might be adjusting the synth or the device you have on screen. Just hold Shift and press chord map again. Sometimes it forgets that it's in chord map mode and we need to use these encoders to make some adjustments. Speaking of these encoders, the first two are labeled Adventure, and it goes up to 5. The second one is labeled Explore, and it goes up to 8. Essentially what these do is they change the collection of chords that you have available here. So if I just change Adventure to 2 or 3, we get completely different chords. And as I go up further and further in numbers, the chords get a little further out than our key. But don't worry about that. Don't dwell on that if you don't know too much about music theory. When I turn the Explore knob, the same thing happens. And the combination of Adventure and Explore provides you with 40 different chord sets. So, for instance, if I set Adventure to 1 and Explore to 2, that is a different chord set than if I set Adventure to 2 and Explore is still on 2. It's an interesting approach to chords. It's not my favorite for a lot of devices, but again, if you don't know too much, just keep it simple, stay in the lower numbers. In fact, I'm on Adventure 2, Explore 4. And they're sounding pretty good. You can use the arrows here to change the octaves of these chords. One thing I didn't realize is that I actually have a performance mode latched right now. So if you can hear, it's different every time I tap this pad, right? So now is a good time to talk about the performance modes. First of all, let's forget I have that latched for now. This should be the experience, the screen that you're seeing with 3 orange knobs. Nothing's illuminated here. If I play one of these chords, nothing changes. But if I hold down one of these orange pads and then play a chord, tapping it multiple times to get the full effect, we're getting this performance modifier. And this performance modifier is called ARP up, which means it's playing each note of the chord in an upward direction from low to high. It'll do that for every chord that I tap. Again, if I'm not holding down one of these, it's just going to play the chord as is. Each of these does something different. ARP down is just the opposite direction of ARP up, starting from high to low. Inversion up and down, which means it's going to play the chord with the notes in a different order each time you play it. In an ascending direction and then down. same thing. It's playing the inverted chords, but in a downward direction. Followed by bass and chord. It's playing the root note. Followed by the chord. You can write a 2000s ukulele song in no time there. And finally, you have chord split, which is similar to bass chord, except it's more like it's playing the low notes of a chord followed by the high notes of the chord. As I accidentally had turned on before, you can latch these performance modifiers, meaning you don't have to hold them down to perform with them. So I've just pressed the arrow here and then pressing the performance modifier that you want. It's illuminated. We no longer have to hold down the performance modifier to use it. I'm going to turn that off so we can talk about a couple more encoders that will also impact how the chords are played. In addition to adventure and explore, we have spread. Currently my spread is on normal, which means we're just getting the basic chord. If I turn that to wide, we will add a bass note to the chord. If I turn that to widest, not only will it add a bass note, but it will add a note on top of the chord, a higher note. We're talking about normal, wide, and widest in terms of the keys, how far apart those notes are spread. And then finally, roll, which is probably my favorite thing to adjust. That'll give us a bit of a strum to our chords. Obviously, the higher the value. Longer that roll will be. So dial in a few of those settings, find a combination of adventure and explore that you like, dial in the roll and the spread, perhaps try to use one of these performance modifiers. And then let's record a chord progression using the real-time record method that we learned last time. So I've hit play because I've got that drum loop ready to go. So I want to practice playing along with that. If you want to play something simple, just hold a chord for 4 beats. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So record that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. The performance modifier. So I kind of recorded both of those ideas into a single clip. If we take a look at that in the software, we have our initial rolled chords, followed by our arpeggiated up chords with those individual notes of each chord. I think it sounds pretty cool. Of course, a cool technique would be to record the chords without a modifier, and then record a different clip with the modifier. So you have a couple variations. But what if you don't want to use these pre-made chords? What if you want to make your own chords? That is the final part of today's lesson. So jumping out of the chord map mode, we're going to hold Shift and go to User Chord. Now I currently have no illuminated pads here, but let's see if we can change that. User Chord allows you to store your own chords. So let's keep things simple. I'm going to play notes on the keys. And I'm going to play a really simple chord, just a C major 7, C, E, G, and B if you want to follow along at home. To store that chord in the user chord mode, I just hold the pad where I want the chord to be stored, and I play the notes that I want in that chord. They show up here on the screen. Now we've got that pad illuminated, and that chord has been stored. Let's record another chord. I'm going to do an F major this time. F, A, C, E. If you want to follow along at home, hold the pad, play the notes. No pressure, you can just keep holding it and keep adding notes if you'd like. And now we got an F major 7. Let's add another chord, A minor, A, C, E, G. Hold the pad, play those notes. And if you're savvy with your music theory and you're thinking, I'd like to store these chords, but my song is in a different key, the arrows now have become transpose keys. So you can quickly adjust these chords to fit in whatever key your song is in. Now, if you do want to change octaves of your chords, you can hold Shift, press the down or up arrow, and you can change the octave of the chords. Function button here, holding the function button allows you to delete chords. So if you say, we don't want this A minor anymore, boom, it's deleted. There's also a function called key detection, which might be on by default, but using this button right here, we can go ahead and turn chord detection keys on, and it will show our chord in real time, even if we're not recording a chord. We can get a readout of what chord we're playing. You can turn that on or off. It just depends on if you want the screen to constantly display the notes that you're playing in this mode. So now I'm going to switch back to the clip launch mode of the pads. And we've got an empty clip slot here, which is this little faint red pad, which we can record into. What I'm going to do is trigger that pad to record. So watch this happen in real time. I'm going to use the 4-beat count in as the time I need to switch back to user chord mode. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Remember, just hold a chord for 4 beats each. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've recorded that chord progression. Let's go back to clip launch mode. Switch things up. Now we've got different drum loops and different chord loops. Forgot I did this with the ARP up performance modifier. Here we go. And let's stop these clips. We're building on the skills from the previous lessons, and now you're able to jam, creating more complex step sequenced drums and take advantage of the chord functions built right into the Launchkey to build your chord progressions on top of those drum loops. All right, so hopefully you can feel that we are just building on these skills, giving you a solid foundation so that you can use the Launchkey Mini and take advantage of all its features to make your music. So hopefully you're already having some fun jamming, and we're going to continue to build on that in this series. For channel members, the next episode, which is completely ad-free, is already up. So if you want to jump into the next chapter, become a channel member, hit the join button down below or the subscribe plus button, whatever it says these days. And you can support the channel while getting early access to episodes of this series as well as other bonuses. I also want to thank DistroKid once again for sponsoring this episode. If you want to get your music out there, use the link in the description, get a 7% discount. That's all for now, folks. If you have other topics you think we should cover in this series, please leave them down in the comments. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.